Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. This is from Brains, and the name of the article is 16 Victims of the Church of Scientology. Not sure what the date is. Published by the editors. For the past 56 years, 56 is a very important number, the Church of Scientology has blazed a path of headlines and mystery across the globe. Once existing only as the idea held by a single man, the church has grown into a multinational, highly organized institution in record time. There is little doubt that trends in the 60s and 70s of both counterculture and New Age thought contributed to the breakneck speed of the church's growth, allowing its numbers to swell worldwide to figures that cannot be accurately counted, but are said to number in the millions. Despite the great successes the cult of Scientology has enjoyed over the last half-century, the ubiquitous church has been embroiled in scandal since its inception. At the heart of every matter of contention lies the bottom dollar. Though self-described as a religious ministry, the cult of Scientology tries to operate more like a not-for-profit international charity and has repeatedly been accused of actually being a for-profit business. Criminal activities, both proven and alleged, span the entire length of the church's short lifespan. Here we take a look at 16 victims of the most egregious offenses allegedly committed by the Church of Scientology to date. There's more. Patrice Vick. Patrice Vick was a 31-year-old Parisian family man with a wife and 2 children. He was relatively happy until he took a Scientologist's questionnaire and was subsequently convinced that with the church's help, he could be even happier. Wonder if that was a personality test. That step only cost him 3,000 francs. He became obsessed and distant. His wife even tried to save their marriage by going with him and subjecting herself to an audit, which made her so uncomfortable that she halted the process and left. On the advice of the church supervisor, names present, Mr. Vick stopped speaking to his wife altogether. Oh, they were going to disconnect them immediately because she asked questions, and became more detached than ever. He started taking vitamins. Of course they're taking vitamins. Supplied by the church, and underwent regular counseling at the local church center. Spending more and more of his dwindling funds as he went. Finally, late one evening, while in bed, next to his silent wife, Patrice Vick got up and said quite simply, "This is the only solution." He took a running dive over their 12-story balcony to the street below. As it turns out, Mr. Vick was unable to either find the money or secure the loans necessary to pay the 30,000 franc inner purification procedure he was assured would fix his broken life. Susan Meister. Susan Meister was an impressionable young woman who found Scientology in 1970s San Francisco. She was incredibly devoted to her new purpose in life, very motivated and overzealous. She repeatedly tried to pressure her parents into joining and then fledgling Church of Scientology. She wanted so badly to be a part of the inner workings of the church that after a year in the city, in 1971, she joined the now infamous Sea Org. Within a month, she made her way all the way to the flagship of Scientology's miniature naval fleet, the Apollo. This was a great honor, as it was the seaborne home of L. Ron Hubbard himself. Just a few short months later, Susan's father would be making his way to Morocco to identify the corpse of his daughter. When asked about the strange circumstances of Susan's death, he replied that she was lying on a bank, wearing the new dress her mother had made for her, her arms crossed, with a long-barreled revolver on her breast. A bullet hole was in the center of her forehead, and blood was running out of the corners of her mouth. I began to wonder how Susan could that's what I'm thinking. How Susan could possibly blank herself in the center of her forehead exactly, with the long-barreled revolver, because she didn't do it. There were no powder burns on Susan's forehead either, her father noted. Imagine how awful that would be, seeing your daughter like that, too. Raul Lopez. When Raul Lopez was critically injured in a head-on collision in 1985, doctors told him he was lucky to even be alive. The irreparable brain trauma that was slowly killing Mr. Lopez was also impairing and degrading his mental faculties over time. But he still had most of the multi-million-dollar settlement, oh boy, resulting from the wreck that nearly killed him. Then he found the Church of Scientology. The cult of Scientology told him that they could succeed where modern medicine had failed and heal Mr. Lopez. Yeah, to get that money. By the time Mr. Lopez realized he had been duped and fired his Scientologist lawyer, conservator, he had given the church $1.3 million. You know they had to hunt him down. Like, how would they have found that? Sick. The cult of Scientology maintains that there was never any wrongdoing, deny, since the mentally impaired Lopez had willfully participated. See, that's how, well, then how do you explain the children, right? That's not their will. I know Aleister Crowley says, do as thou wilt, but children don't have a choice to say, I want to do as thou wilt, right? Mary Florence Barnett, Flo as she liked to be called, was the mother-in-law to David Miscavige, otherwise known as Shelley Miscavige's mother, who after Hubbard's untimely demise took power within the church. In Hubbard's absence, Miscavige took on the roles and responsibilities that could be equated to those of the CEO of a corporation. At the time of her death, Flo had become entangled in some of the church's worst sequences of infighting. Well, that doesn't tell us much. She had been following a splinter sect within the church that had been declared apostate, and the fact that she was directly linked to Miscavige was a constant source of embarrassment to both him and his wife. At the height of the scandal, Flo was found dead in her bedroom, a victim of bluicide. Hers was also very weird, very, very weird. And apparently she was a very petite person. As it was initially called, she had been blank 3 times in the chest and 1 in the head with a .22 caliber Ruger semi-rifle, which was found near the body. Also, that's a really large weapon. Yeah, there's no way. Wonder if they dusted for prints. I'll bet they didn't. Let me guess, it was Clearwater. Roxanne Friend, a former Scientologist, described her experience at the church's flag facility in depositions for a lawsuit she filed against the church in 1999. Miss Friend had been forced to participate in practices of which she did not want to be a part. When she attempted to leave the facility, she was stopped and not allowed to leave. She was held there for several months and denied proper treatment for both mono and pneumonia. Have you guys noticed? I don't know if she actually had that, but I've heard that over and over, like the same diseases. She was not allowed to see her father when he traveled to see her, nor was she allowed to attend a wedding, at which she was slated to be the maid of honor. A year later, she tried to re-enter the church in Florida and was forced back into the initial procedure she refused in California. Wonder if she got charged for it. What do they call that? Like the ethics handling? Maybe an auditing, possibly. When she tried to leave at that point, she was taken, placed under guard, monitored, cut off from communication outside, and finally drugged only to be transported to another location where she was held for over a month. How many times, you guys, have we heard this? That they won't let the person leave. A lot of women, they do this too. They do it to men too. But they drug them. So I guess, like, you can drug your own parishioners when they want to leave and you don't want to let them leave. But all the other, when it comes to anything else, oh, no drugs, drug-safe environment, drug-free America. Paulette Cooper. In 1973, Paulette Cooper, then a journalist in New York, found herself under federal indictment for sending bomb threats to the Church of Scientology. What was happening would come to be known as Operation Freakout, as Miss Cooper was in the business of publishing books speaking out against the Church of Scientology. She was made a target with the express goal of to get PC incarcerated in a mental institution or jail, or at least to hit her so hard that she drops her attacks. Wonder what Rinder knows about that. The actual internal COS documents for this officially named project were acquired during an FBI raid of COS offices in 1977, which in turn cleared Miss Cooper of the earlier charges for which she had been indicted. COS members had stolen stationery from her home, along with the means to recreate her fingerprints, and forged the bomb threats. They also sent letters to her neighbors declaring that she had venereal diseases and imported her books to countries with libel laws that allowed them to sue her overseas for what she had written stateside. They even found a woman with similar voice characteristics to make threatening phone calls to Arab consulates in New York City. The harassment didn't stop there. Graffiti with her phone number was found throughout the city. The IRS was told that she had lied to them on tax returns. Men would seek her out and date her, only to be discovered as Scientologist agents, and legal documents were stolen from her lawyer's office in attempts to gain an edge on any of the 14 different lawsuits filed against her. Quentin Hubbard. I want to just disclose, I don't believe the official story about Quentin Hubbard at all. I don't believe, if you listen to a lot of the details, it doesn't add up. Especially with a lot of these weird deaths in Scientology in which there was supposed to be asphyxiation in the car. Go back and look at all of them. They were all exactly the same. Anyways, that was the official stories. L. Ron Hubbard's son, Quentin, was 22 years old when he died in 1976. Sources who later left the organization have stated that Quentin was an embarrassment to Hubbard. In fact, upon hearing of his son's apparent bluicide, like I said, I don't believe any of this, Hubbard's only expressed concerns was over the publicity problems the event was sure to cause. And a lot of people thought that Quentin was homosexual, that he liked men. That was the thoughts. Quentin was found on the side of the road in his car with a hose piping exhaust fumes into the cabin. Like I said, so many deaths happened supposedly just like that. He was unkempt, which people said he was never like that. He always took good care of himself. He was unkempt, unshaven, which to me tells me they probably had him locked up. Where he couldn't shave and take care of himself. Sitting next to an empty bottle of liquor. Also, it is said that he didn't drink. Missing his wallet, that doesn't make sense. And with needle tracks in his arms, probably someone did that to him. That's what I believe. The license plate was missing from his car. Now, why would that be? Quentin Hubbard was well known among his friends for being meticulous about his appearance and always clean, shaven. His friends also noted that he did not drink or use drugs of any kind. Yeah. Casey Hill. In 1984, the Church of Scientology in Ontario, Canada, sparked what would become an expensive battle with Crown Attorney Casey Hill. They inevitably lost the fight, though it took several years of litigation and smear campaigning against not only the government lawyer, but also the court and ministry he represented. I want to interject here. Ask yourself why on earth that would be allowed, right? Why would any person or any entity be allowed to go up against the government? Think about that. And smear campaigning against not only the government lawyer, but also the court and ministry he represented. In an attempt to sabotage the prosecution of a case against them, the local COS had a practicing barrister of the court stand on the front steps of the courthouse in full garb and proclaim that he was initiating criminal contempt proceedings against Mr. Hill, who was prosecuting the case against them. Hill, in turn, sued for libel. The ensuing court battles that took place would cost Hill tens of thousands of dollars, and his name was smeared in every newspaper in the Northern Hemisphere. Later court judgments amounting to 129-page document would reveal findings that COS had in fact willfully engaged in a 7-year-long campaign to ruin Hill, stating that Scientology decided Hill was the enemy and it set out to destroy him. When all was said and done, the church was ordered to pay the largest ever sum awarded for libel in Canadian history, at $1.6 million. That's good. Francis Diamond. In 1981, an antique dealer in Clearwater, Florida, was committed to a mental hospital after being declared insane. Francis Diamond, who was 45 at the time, led a happy if somewhat mundane life before the Church of Scientology moved into town. Scientologists frequented his store, and he befriended many of them. It wasn't long before he began reading the literature they gave him, and he decided to get audited. Not long afterward, the police had placed him in special custody, pending the court's ruling on his sanity. But the cops know nothing about what's going on there, right? He stood before a judge and explained that other Scientologists, Thetans, had invaded his body. 3 of them, in fact, and they wanted him dead. According to Diamond, these Thetans drove him to smoke 5 packs of cigarettes a day and overeat until, I don't mean to laugh, you guys, I'm sorry, and overeat until he had gained 50 pounds. When asked why he had not done something about what was happening to him, he told the court that he feared not only his reputation, but the church's retaliation. Diamond had absolutely no history of mental illness or propensities toward mental illness prior to his auditing. Yeah, it's almost like they're interjecting mental illness. And I was watching Natalie Webster and Tori Chrisman, and they were talking about reverse auditing. And basically, reverse auditing, it causes psychosis, which is the plan. Jennifer Stewart. In 2000, a 16-year-old Jennifer Stewart, raised as a Scientologist, became a supervisor under a man named Gabriel Williams. Williams, then 27, lived with his fiancée at the time. Stewart's new working hours were to be from 9 in the morning to 9 at night. Because, 16-year-olds should be working like that, right? So the church ordered her to move in with Williams at his San Jose residence. How is that? Anyways, the first night she stayed there, she reports Williams arred her and continued to do so for months. Stewart believed at the time that if she had gone to the police, that she would have been made to see a psychiatrist, something that is beyond unacceptable in Scientology. Also, by the way, her parents knew that she was over there. But anyways, her parents, they tried to help her and stuff. So a member of the COS Office of Special Affairs told Stewart's father that if he were to say anything, she would be taken away by Child Services. See what they do? Williams was arrested in 2002, and Stewart married her boyfriend, Tom Gordon. The couple moved in with the Gordons' family. That's when the Gordons began receiving death threats. Yeah, I'm sure the police know nothing about that either, right? Began receiving death threats and harassment phone calls on a regular basis. The message delivered was quite clear. SPs don't live long. Oh, I wish they'd come over in my neck of the woods and say some stuff like that. I really do. I'm not kidding. SP is a Scientology phrase meaning suppress a person or enemy of the church. I bet a lot of these fools... I can't say too much. I'm gonna stop. Maria Pia Gardini. Maria Gardini was a Class 9 auditor for the Church of Scientology. She originally entered the church through her daughter, who had learned of it through Narconon. Maria was very good at what she did and made the church millions of dollars through her work. She was a member of the Sea Org, which by court rules means that not only her room and board, but also her own auditing are supposed to be covered by the organization. Maria was told by her supervisors that it would be selfish for her, who had money, to take such charities from the church, and that she should be donating her money for the betterment of the COS. When she realized that nobody else paid the amount of money she was being made to pay, she demanded her money back. I wish all ex-Scientologists would go demand their money at one time. She was coerced into taking only a portion back and being content with it, while her own supervisor bought a $40,000 car with the commission she got for Maria's money. Names. After several more attempts to get her money back, in 2001, Maria contacted the Lisa McPherson Trust to request that they assist her in reclaiming the $1.5 million she lost. Wow. Jeremy Perkins. On March 13th, 2003, which also happens to be L. Ron Hubbard's birthday, Jeremy Perkins stabbed his mother 77 times with a 12-inch kitchen knife. He did not want to take the vitamins that the church had given him, nor did he want to take a shower, both of which his mother, also a Scientologist, had tried coaxing him into doing. By the way, he had psychosis, just so everybody knows. Professionals believe that had Jeremy been on proper medication, under actual medical care, his mother would still be alive today, and he would be functional. Jeremy was fully delusional and believed at the time that his mother was not only trying to make him worse with the vitamins, but that she had an evil eye. Jeremy stood alone in court, a murderer. Another young person failed. And I think we all should be talking about them more because, yeah, it's awful that he killed his mother, but he needed support and care, and nobody gave it to him. Nana Anderson. In 1985, the COS decided it was going to infiltrate the... I'm trying not to laugh, you guys, because it's just Some of this stuff just makes me laugh. In 1985, the COS decided it was going to infiltrate the Ontario Medical Association. They sent Nana. Nana was only 17 when she joined the church. Is that a minor, you guys? I don't know, my math's a little off. 17 is a minor, right? A doctor who was also a member of the church had convinced her that she had cancer. She was asked to get money from her family in order to pay for treatment. And 10% of that was a commission to the doctor. Wow. She had signed a vague loyalties contract that she was told had authority anywhere. So when she left England to move to Ontario, Canada, the church maintained control over her. She got a job working for the OMA and began the long process of siphoning information for the church. She also divorced her husband because church heads had told her he was bad for her. See, like this, all this stuff needs to come out. She described the loyalty simply stating that if they said march, I would march. After hearing her story, the court dismissed charges against her and she turned state's evidence. Gabe Casares. Clearwater, Florida had been a nexus of activity for the COS to include illegal activities. Yeah, Clearwater police would know. So Casares spoke out publicly against the church. Oh, don't do that. When they arrived in the town in 1975, the church immediately fired back with a smear campaign of the usual sex allegations and also attempted to set him up in a staged hit-and-run car accident. Casares hadn't been Casares spoke out publicly against the church when they arrived in the town in 1975. The church immediately fired back with a smear campaign of the usual sex allegations and also attempted to set him up in a staged hit-and-run car accident. Casares hadn't been saying anything that wasn't clearly visible already to the public and the police. He called out the church for the quiet way they went about buying any property in town they could get a hold of, and questioned why a church would need a security force to begin with. Yeah, LAPD, what is that about? Much less one that carried clubs. Again, internal documents were obtained during a federal raid on COS offices detailing plans and operations in regard to Clearwater politics, and Casares in particular. In the criminal investigations that followed, 11 COS officials were jailed for breaking into federal offices. Casares later filed suit against the church for $1.5 million in damages, which was settled out of court in 1986. He filed several more times in the years since. Lawrence Wollersheim. Mr. Wollersheim reveals that in 1969, when he joined the church, he signed a billion-year loyalty contract. He found himself confined to the hold of a ship off the coast of California, which he described as a thought reform gulag. I want to take a mental note, like, who all was on that ship during these times? Inquiring minds want to know. His mental state steadily degraded until he came just short of the point of bluicide, and it was later discovered that he suffered from bipolar disorder. As psychiatry is forbidden, he had to choose between leaving the church or suffering the consequences of his mounting problem. He had already paid the church $150,000 when he decided to leave. He filed suit in 1980 and won millions of dollars in court awards. The church had no intention of paying him, however, and an ensuing legal battle raged on for over a decade. Wollersheim created a website, factnet.org, to inform the public of the illegal activities carried out by the COS. I'm going to go check and see if that still exists. Lisa McPherson. Lisa McPherson joined the Church of Scientology at the age of 18, and in 1994 moved to Clearwater, Florida. The following year, the church noticed problems with Lisa. Oh boy, did they glide over that. She was OT8 by that time, by the way. and placed her in a status of introspective rundown. And 3 months later was declared, clear, I'm sorry. She was clear, I thought she was OT8. Declared clear again. 2 months later, she was involved in a minor car accident that resulted in a suspected head trauma. Yeah, I've been wondering about that. But she refused further evaluations. Well, didn't handlers come to get her? I think handlers came to get her. Rinder. Who are the handlers that came to get Lisa McPherson? Okay. And then she was placed on an isolation watch. In the last 17 days of McPherson's life, her health quickly deteriorated past the point of emergency. She was locked up against her will, by the way. She was kept in isolation and denied proper medical attention. Other Scientologists who inquired about her care were told to butt out. Were they? Really? And a Scientologist doctor prescribed her both Valium and antibiotics without seeing her. When the decision was made to take her to a hospital, wouldn't you guys like to know who was in that car? I would. I really would like to know who was in the car taking Lisa McPherson to the hospital. I really would love to know that. When the decision was made to take her to a hospital, when she was almost gone, the execution was curious. 4 hospitals were passed along the way, and upon arrival, she had flatlined. Was it upon arrival? Or had she flatlined before then? And how do you know if someone flatlines if you don't have them on the monitor? The personnel at the emergency room attempted resuscitation for 20 minutes, but Lisa McPherson was already dead. During her autopsy, the coroner said she had likely died of a thromboembolism. Here it is, guys, listen to this. Caused by severe dehydration while lying in bed. I think they weren't really feeding her much either. She kind of was refusing food as well. It's very similar to Mills, isn't it? Isn't that interesting? The coroner also noted several bruises and abrasions, consistent with animal bites. The church called her family and told them that she had died from either meningitis or a blood clot. See, they're diagnosing people when they don't have the credentials. While at Fort Murray for rest and relaxation in May of 2004, a civil suit filed by her family against the church was settled. So that's it, you guys. I will leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Wherever you are, whether it's day or night, have a great day, a great night. Peace.